Welcome. This is episode 111 of Women on Wealth. I'm Julina Ogilvie, and today we're talking about something I think every woman needs. Most of us are never taught, which is how to ask for what you want in a way that reflects your true value. And whether it's asking for a raise, maybe, you know, pitching a work idea, requesting more time, so many of us instinctively think small. And so I'm personally very interested in this topic. My guest today has built a groundbreaking framework that flips the script. Dia Bondi is a leadership communications coach, keynote speaker. In fact, she was a TEDx editorial pick. It was titled Why the Word Yes is Holding You Back. She's a trained auctioneer whose work now helps women and change makers ask bigger and unlock opportunities that they never thought possible. She also published the book Ask Like an Auctioneer, which I can see in your background. I love the cover.
Thanks.
And this is a conversation candidly about, creating some courage and hopefully some clarity. And I'm looking forward to it. Welcome.
I never get sick of talking about this, so I'm so happy to be here, particularly when it's about putting more money and decision-making power in the hands of women. So it's great.
Yes. Well, and in preparation of this podcast, I was sharing your information with some of my colleagues, and they're like, "Where did you find her?" And I have to say, because of this podcast, I get so many emails about different ideas, right, from marketing
Yep,
companies, and but yours stuck out above and beyond else just by the fact that you're an auctioneer. And so
I know.
you have such a unique background. So can you talk a little bit about how you got into being an auctioneer and how you pivoted into this role today?
Yeah, so I'm gonna say that I am what I like to think of as auctioneering is an impact hobby for me. It's something I picked up in my 40s when I put myself on sabbatical. I've been a leadership communications coach for over 2 decades, and I took a break. Maybe women listening have experienced their own burnout or needing to like step out so they can step back in, more realigned. And I took a year off and I did a couple of things. I did The Artist's Way back to back. If anybody doesn't know about it, you should look it up. It's a beautiful way of, it's a workbook. Julia Cameron, I think, is the author. And it's such a useful tool on reigniting your own creativity. I did that. I did a lot of push ups and I went to auctioneering school. Totally for fun. My husband said, "Hey, remember that thing you said you would do 10 years before?" Which I had said at a dinner table, you know what I would do? I would learn how to be an auctioneer for real because that year, 10 years
Yeah.
before my sabbatical, I had been invited by our preschool, I'm a mom of two, to be the fundraising auctioneer at our annual fundraiser because none of the other mommies and daddies and caregivers were about to pick up a microphone and do that, And I was like, well, I'll do that. I'm in front of rooms all the time. So I
Wow.
just did it like willy-nilly, and it turned out that it was so much fun. I was like, we were just bucket listing, and I was like, I would totally learn how to do that. And so when I was on my sabbatical, my husband was like, well, it has a few of the attributes that you always care about, which is one is adventure. So he's like, maybe it's the time you do it. So I went and did it. And when I got back to the Bay Area, and I live in the San Francisco Bay Area, I just was like, I'm not going to make a career out of this. What am I doing? And
Yeah.
I decided that I would use what I learned as a way to develop what I call an impact hobby. It's fun for me. It's a challenge. I get to put on a gown. I meet
Yeah.
interesting people, go to these interesting events. And it has the impact that I care about, which was around fundraising, auctioneering for women-led nonprofits and nonprofits benefiting women and girls, brands that people are familiar with, like Girls Inc. or Dress for Success is
Yeah.
a big one of the organizations I did a handful of their auctions. And
Wow.
so, yeah, that was kind of the push for it. And, 30 auctions into it is when I realized, like, oh my gosh, what I'm learning I'm used to being on stage, but it's usually about giving a talk or delivering a workshop. It's just a very different kind of
Sure.
thrust, right? And a different outcome I'm looking for. And I just realized, like, oh my gosh, I'm learning so many. I'm just getting a perspective that would be very useful to how we think about asking in our lives and in our businesses. So that's the long
Wow.
story, Julina. Thanks.
No, no, no. Well, so before I ask my next question, I have to ask where does one go to auctioneer school? Like, what does that look like?
If you Google auctioneering school, you will find them. I went to one in Missouri, and it was 10 days and me and like, 96 cowboys. There were like three or four other women in the cohort. Many of them had grown up, in with their daddy and their daddy's daddy and their daddy's daddy's daddy being an auctioneer for the local, livestock auction barn or,
Wow.
owned like, not thrift stores, but you think of them as like junk stores, where you're selling off $5 box lots, you're starting at a buck and selling it for $5 or $6. And so, folks who had grown up in the culture of like what you think of as auctioneering. And I was there again just to learn it and see what I would do. And halfway through, I realized like, oh, I think I want to do it for this impact hobby. And I could say I have not tracked how much money I've helped raise in the Bay Area, but it's not small.
I can only imagine. Well, yeah, the last gala I went to, we had an auctioneer, and
Yeah.
I think like everyone, you kind of have these looks in the room. They're staring at you like, oh, okay, she's going to try and get all this money out of me. Let's see how this goes. And
Yeah, I mean,
there's a lot of money.
understanding that's an interesting point because the fundraising and the how fruitful a fundraising auction is has so much to do with the months before you're sitting in the chair raising your paddle.
Mm,
And I think sometimes when I talk to women in entrepreneurship and women in their careers, they think, they're focusing on the ask as if like that's the beginning of the conversation.
yeah,
But in the nonprofit world, there's a role called a development lead, right? Like there's somebody who runs development. Their job is to cultivate and invite the right audience that
hmm,
is aligned with the mission of the nonprofit, who understands the purpose is to advance the mission by raising your paddle and either making a direct donation or bidding on an item.
yeah,
And that curation is really critical to an auctioneer being successful. And it's not different when you think about your own career, entrepreneurial journeys you might be on, that once you're really making sure that you're not just making the right ask, at the right time, but of the right people. I had
okay,
a woman, I'll say I had a woman follow up with me. She was in a workshop I gave at Dropbox years ago. Folks listening, I'm sure know what Dropbox is.
hmm,
And she like, I mean, way before it was a book. And she called me to say, hey, I want to let you know I've been asking like an auctioneer for the last 2 years and it has been crazy fruitful. And
wow,
I want to have a conversation with you about it. And I was like, great. And she was like, look, actually the unlock wasn't to ask bigger. The unlock was like, for years, I was asking anybody who would listen and they were mostly the wrong people.
they were the wrong people. Mm,
So once I started really curating and being thoughtful about who I'm making the biggest asks of, she's like, that's when things really took a turn for me.
okay,
So I just bring that up for you
yeah,
as you say, like, oh, I'm sitting in the room and I'm wondering, like, oh, she's just trying to get money out of me. Like, understand that, like, I'm sorry, it has that vibe for you, number
uh-huh.
one. And number two, like, there is no scenario where an auctioneer is extracting money unwillingly from the people who are giving.
Yeah,
That is a curated, well cultivated audience, and we have that in our lives and work as well. There's
yeah.
people who we know are champions for us, who are mission aligned, who are, have the same operate in the same values or have different values, but a shared vision of what they're trying to create. Like those are the people you have to find. And that's going to make your asking so much more fruitful.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you. Thank you for going through that. So let's talk a little bit about your mindset. Like how did it shift when you started applying the auctioneer principles in your own career and life?
Yeah. So it's funny, like mindset always is always a tough term for me. I'm going to be honest, because it's almost like we got to do stuff even if we don't have the like right mindset. It's more about tactics. Like
Okay, yeah.
it's much more like, I mean, mindset's important and I'll share some ideas around that. We need to have the right, be standing in a perspective that aids and supports the asks that we're making. But we also like some of it is just gets down to like sheer tactics.
Okay.
And the real perspective shift happened when I realized that the tactic I'm using and I had been using with my clients for years in my communications work, where they're going to secure, resources, investment, decisions by the board, getting a body of talent to go in one direction or another. They're securing money, but they're also securing decisions and resources that don't just always come in the form of cash.
Yeah.
Um, is that I made the real switch that for earlier in my pre-auctioneering life, it was always about like, all right, what are we going to ask for? Well, what do we think we can get?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we can probably get, 11 head count open recs to build out this new engineering team. Okay, let's go for 11. But really what I need, what would be optimal is if I had 17. But I couldn't ask for that because they'll never go for it. So that was pre-auctioneering.
Yep.
The big shift for me was after I did those, 20 or 30 auctions, I was like, oh, if I made an ask for what I thought I could get in a live auction, somebody would raise their paddle. I would say yes, and I will have lowballed myself right
Right.
off the bat.
Right.
Instead, I have to look for the ask that gets rejected is the one that lets me know I've maximized the potential of the ask, and I always sell it to somebody for a price right beneath that.
Okay.
So the tactical shift is you don't go for what I think I can get. You
Yeah.
instead go for what you think you're going to get a no to. And if you get that no, it's great news because it's told you you've maximized the potential of the ask. You keep the conversation open and you sell it. I'm going to say sell it, knowing that like money is a metaphor, right? Like you're not always selling things in life and in your career, but you sell it for a click beneath that. But inevitably, you end up with more than you would have had you designed the ask to guarantee a yes. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. It does. I guess I'm trying to sit here and think, okay, so what is that level of no that how do you get to that level of no? Right. And that's a hard
You
question.
make the ask that you think will get rejected, and it does, and you go, great, talk to me about what will work. Or you
Yeah.
go for the no, you go for what you think is going to be a no, and you're going to do your research. It's not a perfect science, but you're going to do your best.
Hmm.
And you're going to go for what you think could get a no, and then you're going to get a yes, and you're going to be like, darn it.
Yeah. Okay.
I just left
You can
20%
tell
on
I
the
clearly haven't
table.
done this. So
You know what I mean?
yeah, well, it makes sense. I just have never thought of it that way, you know?
Neither did I until I
Yeah.
was like, oh, for me as an auctioneer,
Yeah.
no is it's a really good word. It lets me know, oh, there it is. That's maximized the potential right there. Oh, no,
Okay.
not at 5,500. How about 5,000? They went at 5,000, 5,500. No,
Right.
but nobody's in at 5,500. Great. This room is saying no to 5,500, but
Right.
somebody's saying yes to 5,000, sold to a person at 5,000. I'm opening the bid at what I think I can get,
Yeah.
1,800. If I sold it right away, what have I done? I've left too
Yep.
much money on the table.
Yeah.
So I guess the mindset shift is I want to be curious
Yeah.
about where the no is, not focused on just making sure I guarantee a yes right off the bat.
Okay. Okay. And do you have a success story on how that applies to maybe someone that you've worked with in real life, whether it's someone that was like negotiating a salary
Yeah,
or
sure. I mean, the book, so I write books kind of upside down. Maybe folks who are listening who are authors do it the same way I do, which is it started out as a short talk and then turned into a workshop. And I workshop that with live audiences for 3 years before I like really saw what the book needed to be about, like what was resonant, what's not, what was useful, what was not. And then I just wrote down everything. So the book is chock full of real world examples, and the first and most important one was oh man, I remember I got an invitation. This is kind of where it all started.
love
I
it.
got an invitation to come give a talk about personal branding or something to a group of about 60 women in Silicon Valley. And I was like, I don't do that, but thanks for the invite.
Mhm.
But I am cooking on this weird new idea I'd like to test with an audience. It's called Ask Like an Auctioneer. And the woman who was curating the guests was like, well, that sounds weird. Yes.
Yeah.
So I got in front of this room and I was like, hey, everybody, your job today, I'm going to talk for 20 minutes. And I'm going to share a brand new idea with you. And your job is to tell me if it's crap or not.
Mm.
And I shared with them, what does it mean to ask like an auctioneer, and a selection of the core ideas I learned from the auctioneering stage to go ahead and make yourself ask in order to get a no, or to make an ask that you think will threaten a no, because that's, you know,
Yeah.
that's Zofo-ish. We'll talk about the Zofo later, but that's, that kind of makes people freak out a little bit to like intentionally get rejected.
Yep.
Um, and I went and did it. Everyone raised their hand and said, this is not crap. Please keep going. And now it's a book and it's touched a lot of people's lives. But importantly, there's a woman in the back who did not introduce herself to me. She just left. And 2 days later, she tweeted at me, I just asked like an auctioneer and I feel like I'm going to puke. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm going to puke. That's the Zofo, everybody. That's the zone of freaking out. If you're making an ask that makes you feel like you're going to puke, it means you're in your own personal zone of freaking out. Great. She did that. And we're still friends. And this is, I don't know how long ago, 6 years ago. And she asked like an auctioneer over 3 different moments in her career. And she went from being a recruiting coordinator at a mid-sized tech company
Okay.
to being head of people operations at a augmented reality technology company that was woman founded. Running all their recruitment process. It put more money in her hands, she and her daughter, for sure. And secondly, it put more decision-making power, which is what we want, particularly for, she's a woman who now is bringing her lens to her recruiting job in a sort of a AR VR environment, which has historically been not so friendly to women,
Okay. Yeah.
So
Amazing.
that's the kind of impact we're talking about.
Okay.
So that's one example, but there are little ones all over the place. I had a woman say, I asked like an auctioneer and I got a 10 grand signing bonus I didn't even think was on the table. I have women saying like, I didn't care about more money, but I held out for a particular word in my title because I knew it would platform me for the next 10 years of my career. I've had women go out and make requests that secure their first very influential board members for their nonprofits that they're starting. I have women going, I mean, it goes on,
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for going through that. And can you talk about your framework around setting your reserve?
Yeah. Yeah. So look, people have maybe sold things on eBay before, and
Yeah.
you always want to like say, what's the minimum that I would take in a counteroffer?
Yeah.
That's your reserve.
Okay.
And the reserve out in the world is a really powerful tool for not having to decide where your boundaries are in the heat of the moment, but instead ahead of time. So I learned this doing live auctioning because I go to the client, go to the nonprofit. I work with a few art institutes here in the Bay Area. We look at the 12 pieces of art that we're going to live auction that have either been donated by the artist or a gallery, or, they take a percentage, but they let us live auction it. And I have to ask, what do we expect this to go for? Which, by the way, is never, ever what it actually goes for, which is just proof that you have no idea what somebody will say yes or no to.
Right. Wow.
So stop deciding for them.
Yep.
Okay. That's number one. Number two, I have to ask, okay, what's our reserve? Sometimes it's zero. Sometimes it's $1,000, $2,000, $6,000, $4,000. I don't know what it is, but we get to decide. And now that I know, all right, for this piece of art, I can't sell it unless I get $4,000 or more for it.
Right.
I get to game out for myself. What happens if I can't get past 3,500?
Right.
I get to plan now. What do I do if I get a no, even to what I can say yes to?
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So often we go, but out in the world, what do? We make an ask and then we get a response and we go, what should I do? But if you and it's the only response you have on the table, and so you feel pressured into saying yes to something that's kind of not good enough, that doesn't really do the thing you want it to do for you. And it comes from a place of scarcity. I guess that's some mindset talk, some scarcity and But if you decide now, I'm going to go make this ask. If I can't get, I'm going to make a big one. If it gets rejected, great. Then if I have a conversation, they can't even meet my minimum. What am I going to do? What do I want to do?
Yeah.
I had a woman in my workshop who was talking about making an ask, not about more money, but something that could be wealth building for her over time.
Okay.
Which was she wanted to shift into being a people manager. She had been a product manager forever.
Mm-hmm.
Is always doing unofficial people management. She
Yeah.
was like, I'm actually very interested in moving my career away from directly managing product and instead into people management. She's like, I find so much joy in helping facilitate other people's success, la, la, la. And where she was at this tech firm was just promising and not delivering on building a team for her, you know?
Yeah.
Or like quarter over quarter over quarter over quarter. And she was starting to feel what I call breadcrumbed. Maybe folks listening know that feeling where it's like,
Hmm.
not that, not yet, not this quarter, not this cycle, next performance review, next time you do it. How about, it's always like, yeah,
Yeah.
sure, I'll talk to my manager's manager about it. And then it just sort of never happens. And you're just stuck in this, like, you're
Right.
stuck, you
Now
know?
what?
Yeah. And you're getting like, they're just
Yeah.
giving you enough hope to hold you on the line.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So we were like, what do you want? Like, what's the ask? Because like, I want to manage two people. I was like, really? She was like, well, I really would love to have like a team of six because that's what I think, I have pictures of what I think we can do together here. I was
Yeah.
like, okay, six, let's go. And I'm like, what's your reserve? And she was like, well, two. And I was like, okay. But
Mm.
her reserve was not just about the number of people that she was going to manage, it was about timeline.
Okay.
So I was like, when does this need to happen for you? And she was like, end of next quarter, not this quarter, end of next quarter. And I was like, okay, but if it happens the next quarter after that, or they breadcrumb you again at the end of next quarter,
Right.
what are you going to do? What if
Mm.
they can't deliver by then?
Right.
Because she was like, I love product managing. It's fine. My reserve, though, is about the timeline. I can't wait any longer. I need to move forward with my career.
Right.
So I was like, what if that's your reserve? Now you get into the juicy part, which is what are you going to do if you don't get it?
And this is the question that none of us really want to ask in preparation of this thought process.
Here's the upside though, everyone. When you do answer that question, there's so much power and relief in it.
Okay. Yeah.
She was like, when I was like, what do you want to do? She was like, I don't know. What should I do? And I was like, if you don't get it, what do you want to do?
Yeah. And what
She
was
was
her
like,
answer?
she was like, oh my God, I think it's time. It would be time for me to leave.
Yep.
And you could see and feel in the conversation on her face,
Yep.
like she kind of choked up, but she was sort of like, oh my God, I can see now. And for her, a whole new world opened up about what's possible if she let herself
Yeah.
leave.
She was there, but she wouldn't admit she was there.
Well, she hadn't taken the time.
Yeah.
Like, I
Wow.
don't know, she works in tech, everyone's running and gunning, and you're just in the ecosystem you're in, and it's hard to like pop your nose up above the
Yep.
water line and go, what's out there?
Right.
She was like, oh my gosh, I think it'll be time for me to go. And now she could walk into this conversation not seeing the answer she gets and the lack of reserve that she could get it, or the lack of getting her reserve met as a
Mhm.
cul-de-sac. But she saw it as like, oh, if I can't get that, I have other choices. Like my market is huge.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
It's an acknowledgement and like a mental preparation for the big ask.
It's figuring out where your boundaries are. And
Yeah.
in auctioneering, I do other really stupid tactical things. I mean, these are like an auction and live if folks listening have been to a live auction at a gala, they last like under 2 minutes. Like if I'm
Yeah.
if I'm live auctioning an item and it takes longer than 2 minutes, that's on me. Like, let's go,
Okay.
you know?
Yeah. Wow.
And I decide ahead of time, like, okay, if I can't get this piece of art at 4,000, we're going to use a house paddle, or I'm going to
Yeah.
use the word pass, or I don't know what I'm going to like. We're going to, we get to decide.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, people do this all the time. They unintentionally lowball. It's
Yeah, because, we want to get something.
exactly. So talk about this, talk about Zofo.
Yeah, I already kind of, isn't it a funny term? I
I love
actually,
it.
I have a t-shirt. I should hold it up. But I wear when I'm on stage for this content, I wear like a white t-shirt with it says Zofo across the top front. It looks very cute with jeans and a blazer, just
Yeah.
saying. Uh,
The
um,
zone of freaking out. We've all been there, right?
oh my gosh.
So how do you help people step into this zone? You want people to actually enter this Zofo.
Yeah, so the Zofo is the zone of freaking out. It's where all of the asks live that don't have a guarantee. You have no idea what they're going to say. And it kind of makes you freak out a little on the inside. It makes you say things to yourself like, "Oh my God, who do I think I am?" Or like, "This is going to ruin everything." Or like, Dia, this is you, what are you, crazy?" I have women literally asking me, "How do I know I'm not delusional?" And I'm like, if you can explain it, you can ask for it. Okay. And yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it does, people know that feeling. Like folks who are listening, think about that first big raise you asked for, or that first big break that you were going for, or that, that first big catch for your board, or that first investment you had for your business, or the first deal you made where you were
Mhm.
like walking into those conversations with your stomach upside down.
Yeah.
That's because you don't know it, because the stakes feel high and you don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Right.
That's the zone of freaking out.
Okay.
Um, and how do you, one thing you have to recognize to help you go, I say that all of the biggest, most rewarding asks you'll make are inevitably in your Zofo,
Okay.
because you're kind of challenging your assumptions about what's possible, right? You're
Yeah.
doing something you're not sure what
Sure.
the answer will be. Like it feels like a risk, all that.
Yeah.
Um, and a couple things. You got to reread the feeling that you get when you're in your Zofo as a feeling that you're standing up for yourself,
Hmm.
that you're actually challenging your own assumptions. You're not shopping from your own wallet, as a friend of mine says. I love that term. So
It's a good
good.
one. Yeah.
It's so good.
Oh,
Um, that you're standing up for yourself. I said that one already, but I'm gonna say it again.
yeah.
And you're kind of exploring what might be possible next, you know?
Meaning this is a very positive stage despite how you feel.
Totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it has that excited,
Yeah.
whoa, it has the same feeling when you're when you're about to jump off a bridge on your first bungee jump. Like
Yeah.
they're the same. So it's
Yeah.
adrenaline, it's all that stuff. So kind of rereading that feeling that you get when
Okay.
you're in your Zofo, not that you're breaking something or trespassing or,
Yeah.
but instead that you're like, oh no, this is actually important to me. It feels scary because it matters to me. It feels scary because I'm challenging my own assumptions of what's possible for myself.
Right.
La la la. So that's one.
Okay.
And two is to like realize a few things. One is that your Zofo is never going to go away. If you wait till it feels normal, like it feels the same as like buying groceries,
It'll never change.
you'll never freaking do it. Yeah. I mean,
Yep.
and the Zofo, like I have noticed that my Zofo has changed over the years.
Okay.
Think about
Huh.
it. Like what used to feel like a big scary ask for you at the beginning of your career, does that scare you now? Probably not.
Yeah. Yeah. But we all have Zofos at some point at every point in our lives. We have Zofo about something.
Totally. It's just that the
Yep.
where it lives is maybe higher,
Okay.
the um I don't know, the level at which it kicks in is
Right.
bigger, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, in my communications work, I've been in situations. I helped Rio de Janeiro win the right to host the Olympics. I did a whole bunch of stuff with the Clinton Global Initiative in front of the UN. I've worked with Nobel Peace Prize winners. I work with technologists who are raising hundreds of millions of dollars. And that used to feel super Zofo-ish for me.
Holy
And
cow.
now I'm like,
Yeah.
it's actually a problem because I don't even know where to go next with my career. Because I'm like,
Yeah.
I mean, humble brag, but I'm a little like,
Yeah.
few things feel Zofo-ish there, but other things, there's other stuff. My Zofo is like it's grown with me, right? In
Yeah.
different ways. So it's just to remember that feeling, don't expect that feeling to go away. Read it as a signal you're doing something awesome for yourself.
Yeah. Yep.
And then to realize that like, I mean, I have like 9 main lessons I got from the auctioneering stage that helps me get a my Zofo, things I can
Hmm.
remember when I'm like, Dia, just add the other zero and send it off. When I'm in my own Zofo, I can share some of those if you want.
Absolutely would love it. Yeah, that was gonna be my next question because clearly you're working not just with individuals, foundations, nonprofits, and working with Rio to get to win the Olympic win the Olympics is that's a very unique one, right? I mean, is there anything you can share
I mean,
about some of your favorites?
that was more in my, I mean, it was way pre-auctioneering years because,
Wow.
Rio, the games happened in 2016. It was a long time ago, but it was a very challenging and unique and very, like, there's few opportunities to be in those rooms,
Yeah,
and the Olympic bidding process has changed significantly over the last like multiple games,
sure.
like a lot. And it's fraught, but it's also just incredibly like rare. That's kind of rarefied air sometimes. So,
Absolutely.
um, the work that I did in there mostly leveraged my communications stuff,
Okay.
the stuff that, and because it was pre-auction, Ask Like an Auctioneer.
Yeah.
But the lessons that I've learned from auctioneering are the things that we can help us go ahead and make those Zofo asks. Understanding that a lot of the presenters that I worked with on that campaign,
Yeah.
they were in their Zofo, like standing in front of the IOC. Many of them were like mid-career people who had been athletes before. Like this was a unique experience for them too.
Wow.
But the big thing I learned from the auctioneering stage to help me and people that are in my workshops get in their Zofo and not have that like force them back to doing thing in making asks that are only guaranteed,
Yeah.
is that like people are irrational. I learned this auctioneering. We had no idea what people would say yes or no to. No
Sure.
idea. And if you don't well, I'm a data scientist. We do data driven decisions around here,
Yeah.
and and is that
We're all
people are
emotional.
irrational. Yeah, they're emotional, and organizations might make data-driven decisions.
Yeah.
I've brought this content to places like medical research, and education, and places where the or law, where the like salary step ladders are very prescribed, right?
Yeah.
But there's other things that women can ask for. Anyway, I'm getting off topic here, but to
No.
say individuals are, they're irrational. And if you don't like that, you can think of their rationale is not your rationale for what you might say yes or no to. So
Right.
I'll send, I tell this story in my TED talk that my TEDx talk that I've sold expensive art, at auction for half of what we thought it would go for. And I sold a camping trip one time a couple of years ago that we thought was going to go for 12 grand, and I sold it for $55,000 twice. Like we doubled it. So you have no
No
idea.
idea. No idea.
So
Wow.
stop shopping from your own wallet. So if we remember that, like, no,
Yeah.
Dia, like you have no idea what they're going to say yes or no to. Just
Yep.
add the zero and hit send.
Yep.
Great. So that's one thing that can help you get in the Zofo. The other one, which I know you probably want to talk to, is the notion that we have to not make the responses we get information about our worth and worthiness. Like I don't like to mess around with like ask for what you're worth, because
Right.
your worthiness is kind of infinite and not on the table. You're making asks that show you what somebody else values based
Okay.
on the situation they're in.
Right.
This is why a bottle of water is expensive in one context and cheap in another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Situation changes, what somebody's willing to pay changes.
It does. And so I guess one of the questions I had for you was how do we do we approach do we approach it differently if we're asking for something non-financial?
When you say differently, say more about that.
When you think of the approach that you're talking to us about, like entering that phase of Zofo, right?
Yep.
And setting your reserve, finding that area of no. Does any of that shift, whether it's financial or not, or
No, I mean the Zofo is the Zofo is the
yeah,
Zofo. Something might feel really big, and you can do two things. I'll kind of parse it out like this.
yeah,
So when it comes to like money, you're either asking for a 12% raise or a 20% raise. It's kind of obvious. 12% doesn't make your stomach turn over. But if I'm like, what if you ask for 20% and your stomach turns over? You're like, oh, I just made my ask Zofo by taking the dollars and adding more.
yeah, yep,
But in some of the most transformational asks that I have seen people make are actually non-financial. I gave that
okay,
example. I gave that example earlier that like, oh, I held out for a particular word in my title because I knew it was going to platform me for the next 10 years of my life. Actually, I didn't care about it. Needed to be enough money, but I didn't care about that at that moment. Just depends on what you care about.
Okay.
So you might make something Zofo by adding a particular title to, the role that you're looking for, or
Yeah.
adding scope, to what you're take responsibility for.
Okay.
That you might feel like, oh, who do they think I am taking growth marketing when I've always been in, demand gen? Like, I don't know, are those the same thing? Just so scope, adding scope could mean something. I
Okay.
could take an engagement. Let's imagine somebody I'm just giving examples. I hope this is
Yes.
helpful.
I love examples.
You might have some, that in the workplace, and
Hmm.
I don't live in a workplace, but I work with people who are in workplaces. In a workplace, visibility is absolute king. Like
Hmm.
you need to grow your visibility in order to grow your career.
Hmm.
So maybe a Zofo ask for you is, I'm going to speak at the all hands for the first time. I work for, a large organization. We're in 6 different geographies. I want to build my relationships with the London office. I'm going to get my face on camera and I want to be the spokesperson for our product update at the next all hands.
Mm.
And that's like kind of Zofo-ish, but I'm going to ask you, what else?
Right.
And you might be adding other things. You might be like, okay, I don't know. What if I also MC our quarterly product reviews that isn't all hands, but I know I have like engineering and product leadership on that call, grows my
Hmm.
visibility. What if I also ask to write a 3-part series in our internal blog to grow, do you see what I'm doing?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not taking one thing and making it bigger. It's creating a bundle that all of a sudden you're
Yeah.
saying to your manager, or you're saying to whoever runs content internally or internal communications, like, here's what I have, this idea, here's the value I think it'll bring to the organization. It's
Right.
all these 3, 4, 5, 6 things.
Yep. And could it also be like, okay, you don't like that idea. There's the no. So what about this? Okay,
A
what about this?
hundred percent,
Yeah.
one
And just
hundred percent,
keep going.
exactly. And what we haven't talked about, um, you can tell I'm like kind of on fire talking about all this stuff. It's been a while since I've talked about it because, like so
Keep
many other
going.
women in the middle of their lives, I'm sandwich generationing kids and care of elderly. So I'm like, oh, I haven't talked about this for a while.
Yeah.
Um, so there, we haven't talked about storytelling much here.
Yes. Let's go for it.
It's kind of where we started when I said, you have to curate your audience and you
Yeah.
need to make sure, that you're talking to the right people.
Hmm.
But
So how do you
I,
layer that in?
yeah. So one thing I learned from the auctioneering stage, and then I want to talk about 2 storytelling frameworks that people could use
Okay.
literally, like if you're in your car, don't take your hands off the wheel. But if you're walking your dog, maybe you pull out your phone and you can take some notes here.
Hmm.
Um, the one is that you need to find the offer inside of the ask that you're making.
Okay.
Like, no, and it's not like, if you do this for me, here's what I'll do for you. It's not that. As an auctioneer, sometimes in a fundraising environment, maybe folks listening have been to these events where they're not actually live auctioning anything at all. They're just doing a paddle raise, meaning they're just having people give,
Yeah.
right? It's called a pledge or a fund a need.
Yep.
And I can't just say, hi, my name's Dia Bondi, let's go. Like, I need to think about what's going on in the room, who's there, why they're there, and offer them some ways to think about their participation in that collective act of giving that night.
Okay.
It's my job to do. Yeah. What?
No, no, no. Yeah, no, 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 keep going because I am so in other words, it's going to sound pretty obvious, but I'm thinking back to the one experience I had. There is a huge amount of thought around sort of setting that environment for what they're about to experience.
Correct. Correct. So I have to be like, at an art auction, sometimes I've used, depending on what it is, if it's I'm always asking the client, like, do we have a bunch of alumni here? Like the same folks here that were here last year? Or do you notice like there are new people that have signed up? Because sometimes the audiences aren't huge. They're 2 to
Yeah.
500 people, and the development director, knows, oh yeah, we have a whole bunch of new. It seems like we have new folks coming. Um,
Mm.
so I can, I might say like tonight when you give, it's an opportunity for you to live in alignment with your values. Like this is it. This
Yeah.
is that place where you can do it. And it's going to feel great when you give tonight. you're going to go home knowing that you did something about what you cared about. That's an offer. It's small, but I'm getting blood from a turnip at this point. I'm just about to ask people I don't know for money.
Yep.
If we're doing a live auction, I might say something like, if tonight's the night you bid on an item and you walk home with a piece of art and you can call yourself a collector tomorrow because you're starting your collection, that
Yeah.
would be a joy for us here at this Art Institute tonight to be
Yeah.
able to let tonight be the beginning of you calling yourself a collector.
Okay.
Like, what a lovely gift to
Yeah.
acknowledge that, like, when you do this, you're getting something that feels important.
Right. How would you look at the framework of the storytelling around like a difficult manager or
Well, okay, I'm going to share two storytelling frameworks that I use with my clients all the time. And
yeah.
I don't call it like ask like an auctioneer, but it's in that world.
Hmm.
It kind of really fuses my communications work and this stuff. So if you're thinking about personal initiatives, meaning
Yeah.
like, you want a promotion, you want an opportunity to run an important high visibility project at work, you want to stretch into something new for you, you want to make a shift, whatever it is. I like using and thinking about something I call the mirror effect, which goes like this. I see you. This is a setup for the ask. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
I see you see me, and because of that. Okay.
Okay.
So I see you is where you start by talking about the other person.
Start with them.
I used this when I have a I'm going to call her Sylvia just to anonymize her. I have a executive in tech who's sort of a Dia fan, and I'm so thankful. I'm a Sylvia fan also, and I use this when I approached her about bringing this workshop to her organization, to her women's circle. I see you as like, hey, I know what's important to you. I've been seeing you the last 5 years building out your legacy around elevating women in tech, and I know that this is a sort of parallel project for you, along with actually making the digital transformations that you're leading in your organization.
Yep.
I know, I saw that not just since you've made a move to into your new leadership role, but I saw it 5 years ago when you were doing X, Y, and Z. I see
Okay.
you. I see you.
Yeah.
I see what you're trying to do. I see what you've already done. I
Okay.
see what you care about. I got you. And then you see me. Now I'm going to give you a chance to see me a little bit.
Okay.
What's amazing is that I've launched this new initiative called Ask Like an Auctioneer with a goal to help 1 million women ask for more and get it and put more money and decision making power in the hands of women so we can have an impact on all of us. And it's so aligned with what you've been working on the last 5 years and the legacy you want to leave when you
Mm.
retire. It's something that was born out of fill in the blank. Its goal
Yeah.
exists because of fill in the blank.
Okay.
Okay. So now she's seeing me like, oh, wow, there's like a lot of kind of overlap here.
Yeah. Love it.
And then I go, and because of that, Sylvia, those two things can really help each other. Here's what I'd like to make a suggestion. And you don't always have to position it as an ask.
Yeah.
Here's what I'd like to do.
Okay. Yeah.
Because of that, the way those two things intersect. Do you hear that?
It fits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of obvious. You're right. We always say start with the other person, but this just makes it a little more
No,
granular.
and it also does it if you do it in such a sincere way, right? Because this is something you truly care about. It should not feel as Zofo-ish.
Yes. Or you should put you in your Zofo the whole time, but you're going to remember that,
But
like, oh, I feel Zofoish because it's important to me. I'm standing
yeah,
up for something I'm standing up for myself. I'm setting up something intentionally and
yeah.
authentically and with empathy that I know will advance what the person in front of me is looking to do. And you don't have
Hmm.
to be best friends with them, by the way.
Right.
You could have a manager that's a jerk and still read them
Yeah.
in a way
Okay.
that makes them not feel exposed or vulnerable,
Yeah.
but truly seen. Like you're picking up what they're putting down, you
Right.
know?
Okay.
I was in New York last month giving this talk at a big law firm, and a woman was like, "We had a client do that to one of my clients I was in a meeting with. The opposing counsel did that to us at the table, and it was the most disgusting thing I've ever felt." And I was like, she was like, what, how do you deal with that? And I was like, well, one, it's not flattery.
Right.
You have to act, you're not doing it such that people feel exposed. So I was
Okay.
like,
Yeah.
however that opposing counsel read you, it
Mm-hmm.
was off because it was a manipulation, not a
Got it.
real piece of work, you know?
Yeah. It wasn't that sincerity of,
No, it was like,
okay.
I know what you want. You know,
Yeah.
it was more about
Mm.
setting, it was more about s- setting somebody up, you
Okay.
know?
Yeah. Okay.
So, it has to be real, number one.
Yeah.
Number two, you have to be willing to be wrong. You
Oh
have to
boy.
be going like, hey, I see what you've been doing this last 5 years. It seems like, I see that leaving a legacy of elevating women in tech is really important to you. And if Sylvia comes back and goes, it's not quite it, I'm like, really? Tell me more.
Okay.
Help me understand because wow, it really looks like that on the outside. Help
Yeah.
me. You have to seek to understand. You have to be willing to be wrong
Got
and
it.
then reflect like, oh, I see what you're doing.
Got it.
Well,
Okay.
that's actually a little different take than I was kind of expecting to talk to you about today, but it still relates to the stuff that I'm working on, just in a
Mm.
different way than I thought.
Okay. Because it can happen.
And does.
And it does. Okay. Yeah. If you step out there and make an assumption of what they're trying to do, right?
And you better do your homework. You better do your homework. So the mirror effect works nicely for
Yeah.
an ask setup,
Yep.
um, for personal initiatives, although also for like other things you need to secure yourself. Like last year, I helped a client who was he's a VC backed startup founder. He has two co-founders, and they were creating their first liquidity event. Well, they weren't creating it. Their initial investors were doing a secondary deal, and
Okay.
it was gonna have a big impact on their next round of fundraising based on the price that they were negotiating with each other, et cetera. And my client had to get in there and be like, excuse me, I need to be like part of this conversation because what y'all do,
Mm-hmm.
the share price you decide on is going to have an impact on my next fundraising. I need to be involved.
Yeah.
And the news he had was not going, the ask he was making, which was also kind of, it could kill the deal,
Mm.
like we used the mirror effect to set it up to go, hey, investor, I
Yeah.
see what you're trying to do here. And I
Yeah.
totally understand it. You've told me at these different times, here's what it is. Here's what I'm trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, here's what the share price needs to be.
Wow. So that's the mirror effect.
Correct.
There's another one.
Yeah, this other one is one I really liked. If you're listening and you're somebody who's launching products,
Okay.
you're the face of an initiative externally,
Got it.
and you might be asking. You might be making asks of communities or customers, or you're going to land new big like transformational partnerships for the business.
Okay.
Because we're talking about women and wealth, but sometimes wealth doesn't come directly through asking a raise. It's about the
Right.
impact that you have that circles back to you in other ways, right?
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
So that one I call the blocker buster. I use this a lot with product leads and CROs, and it goes
Okay.
like this: CROs, chief revenue officers, or chief product officers, folks like that. I mean, product leads too if you're building it, but that goes like this. The blocker buster is about is naming. It's similar to the mirror effect. You're going to name what your audience wants.
Okay.
You want more revenue. You want to find growth in a very constricted environment. You want to retain talent. You want whatever it is, whatever they want. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You want to be perceived in the market as avant-garde. You want to be, a first adopter. You want to have an opportunity to influence the direction of a product. I don't know what they want, but something they want.
Okay.
And
Got
then
it.
the next beat is here's what's blocking that.
Mm.
Here's what's getting in the way of what you want.
Okay.
Lack of access to data, no collaboration with your stakeholder group, slow processes. I don't know what the thing is that's getting in their way of what they want.
Yep.
And then the
Okay.
third beat is here's what we do. Here's the product that we offer, the initiative we're running, the invitation the thing we're building, how it removes that blocker so you can get more of what you want.
Mm. Interesting.
You're smiling.
Yeah. It makes, again, it makes sense, but it's just,
Yeah. Here's what we do. We provide, data insights that allow you to fill in the blank.
Yep.
We're a collaboration platform to allow you to influence the direction of the products that matter most to you, blah, blah. We're running a marketing initiative that allows to remove this blocker that lets you what? Okay. And then
Yeah.
the last one is, and because of that, and there's your ask.
And because of that.
And so
Okay.
you can see how this removes that blocker. Because of that,
Yeah.
we're looking to partner with you,
Hmm.
in this way, for this scope, for this rate, etc.
Right. I love
So those are two, the mirror effect and the blocker buster. I use them a lot.
it. I guess with the blocker buster, is there an example that you can share of maybe, I don't know if it's an organization, right, that was able to utilize this for some large ask? Because you've worked with some big ones, and you don't have to mention names, of course.
Yeah, I need to keep some of them kind of anonymous, but I'll say that like I've used that to set up product demos
Okay.
for AI powered customer service agents.
Okay. Wow.
I've used
Yeah.
it for so there's sort of five or six really big tech events that happen in the Bay Area where products get launched, and I've helped products teams in financial services, consumer, manufacturing, automotive, like I mean, pick an industry.
Yeah.
So, I without getting really down to it,
Hmm.
we're up there. Like we can
It's
do it up there where there's 2,000 people in the room and we're making an ask to like get with a salesperson today
okay.
and
Yeah.
make an investment,
Yep.
that can start at $500,000 and go all the way up to tens of millions. But I've also used it for small agencies that are putting together their pitches.
Wow. So it can be used across so many different
Totally. I like the mirror
plants.
effect
Yeah.
when you're thinking about person to person. I'm trying to advance my individual career, and here's a
Yeah.
thing I'm making and something I want.
Right.
I like the blocker buster for initiatives that are about an organization, a product, or a strategy.
Got it. Okay.
So if we have people listening today who are, launching their first marketing and advertising agency, or they're putting together their consulting offers for we're recording this at the end of 2025 for
Mhm.
2026. They
Yeah.
have some target customers that they want to go land whale of a client that's going to change everything for them, or securing a new, securing new business for a new line of business for themselves. I would say think about how roll uh the blocker buster around in your mouth to see if that's a good fit.
Got it. Okay. That's great.
Is that
And
helpful, Julina?
it's so helpful. And especially just knowing it works across different types of platforms, different types of conversations and environments, etc., whatever.
And you can use both. I mean, imagine you're doing a half hour pitch. You could start with a mirror effect. Hey, all y'all, I see what
Yeah.
y'all are trying to do with your business right now. I know it's very anxiety provoking. The market's changing all the time. AI is everywhere, et cetera. And that creates a lot of uncertainty. I
Mm.
see you.
Yeah.
Hey,
Interesting.
here's what we're up to.
Yeah.
We're developing out new offers that help ease anxieties and create certainty in the market in a place that when things are so tenuous, la la la.
Yeah.
And so because of that, we'd like to share with you a new product offering that we have. And then you
Got
can
it.
go into the blocker buster. Look, I know what you guys want.
Yeah. So for listeners that want to start this idea of asking bigger, thinking bigger, what are some small steps that you recommend that maybe people could implement right away?
Sure. So I'm going to give you the first three steps of my 6-step Ask Like an Auctioneer framework.
Okay.
Okay. So the
Yep.
first one is, you think about what is one midterm concrete goal you have right now? Not the big BHAG goals where you're like, you're dreaming big. This is
Yep.
actually where I want you to be like, in 12 to 18 months, what do you got going?
Midterm, 12 to 18 months. Got
What
it.
do you want to have happen in
Yeah.
12 to 18 months?
Okay.
I want to, secure my first $1 million deal.
Mm.
I want to launch my first book. I don't know what it is. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, goal, very simple, very straightforward.
Yep.
Step two, what's one big move I need to make that gets me closer to that goal?
Okay.
So, we're not talking about asks yet. We're like, all
No.
right. Because you might take like 5 or 6 or 8 different things to get that
Yep.
goal nailed, right? Okay, I want to secure my first $1 million customer. Okay. One big move I need to make is I need to get invited into two of the biggest invite only networks
Hmm.
where
Okay.
that potential customer is very active.
Okay. Yep.
That could be a big move.
Yeah,
Now,
absolutely.
do you notice it's not a to-do list? It's really easy to go, oh, the big move I need to make is like, I need to dial for dollars. I need to call everybody in my network and see the blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just
Yeah.
a to-do thing for you.
Right.
I need to redesign my website to make sure. Blah, 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 blah. No, like
Yeah.
don't think of it as a to do for you. Think of it as a big move that you need to have happened.
Okay. Yeah. Got it.
I need to secure 3 national media spots to position me for my next publisher. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
That doesn't
But
mean
but
you're doing it.
you need to envision it and think about it.
Totally. Okay.
Yep.
What's the next big move? And then the third thing is like, what asks might I make that action my big move that get me closer to my
Mm.
goal?
What Zofo are you going to go into?
Oh, well, that's the next step. So I'll give you the
Oh,
fourth
shoot.
one.
Okay.
That's okay. But I love it. You're on the right direction. So we've got the big goal. We've got
Yep.
the next big move we need to make. And then the third one is
The
what
ask.
ask might I make that actions my big move that gets me closer to my goal? Okay.
Got it. Okay.
Then you can ask yourself, okay, I got the ask. It's, to ask this person to invite you to the special dinner party where you're going to meet your next whatever. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
But then the question is, how do I make that ask Zofo?
Right.
And that goes back to your point earlier, Julina, where you're like, do I just add a couple zeros because it's money
Yeah.
based?
Yep.
Or do I think about what other layers of strategic asking can I add to
Yeah.
that I think could have a bigger impact?
Wow, the anxiety that you must create for people to get them through this.
Oh, it's fun.
I love it. And I have to take a pause here for a second. I'm trying to remember. I just totally blanked out. All right, so we've got here your midterm goal,
Yeah, 12 to 18 month midterm solid goal.
one big move that gets you towards it.
What's the big move that gets you closer to your goal?
Yep.
What move do you need to create, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, who can I ask, right?
Nope, not yet. What is the ask? What ask might I make that gets me closer to my goal? Because
Okay.
I might not know the who.
Yep.
The who's like
Okay.
next.
Yeah. I even
Because
wrote down what, and I still said who.
it's fair, but I'm like, don't worry, because sometimes we can be like, I can't ask that because I don't know anybody that has access to that. And I'm like,
Got it.
that's BS because you can network your butt off to find the right who. The right who is just part of the
Okay.
like
It's part of the process.
the what. I walk it. So I go to these in the Bay Area. I go to these they're sort of like networking dinners. And I always have like on the tip of my tongue for like 6 months at a time things that I know when somebody says, how can I support you? I have a better answer. I have a
Mm,
strong ask that isn't just like and subscribe or support me, which is so amorphous.
right.
And I have in mind the who, which isn't a person, it's a profile.
Got it. All right. So sort of last question here as I'm looking at the clock, but what's next for you?
That is a great question. And I'm going to be really transparent that, like, while I'm in the business of creating clarity, there are times where you're planting seeds and not just harvesting. Like,
Yeah.
that's real, And it's so easy to be in these conversations and be like, here's what I'm up to. And I'm at a season in my life where I alluded to it earlier that where I've just sent my son to college and I have a young teenager who's a big athlete and we got to support that vision, and I have aging parents and that are needing in an acute time that need acute care.
Yeah.
So, and I don't mean acute care in a facility in the hospital. I'm talking about like we're in a very specific time.
Yeah.
So what's next for me is about rest and rejuvenation
Okay.
and making the asks that make that possible. Sometimes we
Mm,
ask for more and sometimes we ask for a lot less of something to make room for something else.
Yeah.
So, what's next for me is intentionally taking a pause and, you know, tapping my community and making asks that make it possible for me to go away for a while so that I
Yeah.
can come back refreshed.
Oh, well, I love it because we all go through these phases in our life and we all have, multifaceted roles. And so I thank you for your honesty in that because it's never easy.
Yeah. I get really tired of a lot of this sort of hard charging, here's what you need to do vibes, which my book has a lot of, and this world of like growth and moving into our potential and maximizing things is always has this sort of glaze of being certain and linear,
Yeah,
and it's not. Sometimes you need to step back in. And the good news is I created Ask Like an Auctioneer as an outcome of taking a 1 year break where I reignited my creativity. I did a lot of push-ups and I went to auctioneering school with no plan.
I
And
love it.
so
And now here
my
you are.
now, yeah, my next year is probably going to be having a lot, like letting myself have a lot less clarity.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on all the success and your mindset. I know you're not a fan of the word, but your mindset got you here. And, so I wish you all the success in the future
Thank
steps.
you.
So where can people find you?
People can find me at diabondi.com. And I'll say that you can find the book there. You can find the TEDx there. There's a bunch of, if you go to the book's website, you're going to find a bunch of free supplemental content, tear sheets, and all kinds of stuff that you can
Yeah.
use with or without having read the book. And I have, if audiobooks are your jam, I did read the audiobook. And
Great.
I also run something called the Transformational Voice Intensive a couple of times a year, which
Mhm.
is where, leaders and founders come together, and it's a very small cohort, a maximum of 8, and we do develop out your unique leadership voice in your domain, whether you're in the marketing space, you're in research, you're in data, you're in you own your own IP, whatever it might be, and you'll find links to that there as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dia, for all your insight.
Thanks, Julina.